our story today. This is going to be the beach. The shore of a great lake. The lake was so enormous that people called it a sea. The Sea of Galilee. This was just the edge of it. After the first Easter, the disciples made their way to Galilee. They walked, it was a long way. Took them about 4 days to reach Galilee. And one evening they came down to the lake shore. Many of them had been fishermen and they knew this place as boys. They had fished there with their fathers. Peter remembered how on the night that Jesus was arrested and died, he had said he didn't know him, and he felt restless. So he suddenly said, "I'm going fishing." And the other disciples joined him on the boat. And they pushed back away from the shore, and the wind caught their sails. They sailed out. When they were out in the water, they took one of the nets and they threw it out into the water to see if they could catch any fish. They fished all night and didn't catch anything. But it was a bit of a comfort to be back on the lake with the familiar sights and the familiar smells and the splash of the water. At the end of the night, just as the sun was beginning to bring a little bit of light, they noticed a figure on the shore, moving around in the light of a charcoal fire. "Have you caught any fish?" All they could answer was, "No." "Throw your nets on the other side of the boat." Well, they had nothing to lose, so they threw their net out onto the other side of the boat. And then as they held onto the ropes, they felt it fill with fish. They felt the weight of it. But John, he wasn't watching the fish. He was looking at the person on the shore. "It's the Lord," he said. And Peter didn't wait any longer. He jumped into the water and swam to shore, waded up through the shallows onto the beach. The other disciples couldn't pull the net onto the boat, it was too heavy. So they dragged it behind them as they sailed. Whoops. Let's put them back in the boat. They dragged their nets behind them as they sailed back to the shore. Then they dragged the net up the beach. Bring some fish to the fire, the stranger said. And as they gathered around the fire, they knew that the stranger was not really a stranger. It was Jesus. But they were too full of wonder to say anything. And Jesus gave them bread and fish that he'd prepared on the fire, and it felt like being home. Afterwards, Jesus turned to Peter. Peter, do you love me? Yes, Lord. Yes, I love you. Feed my lambs. Peter, do you love me? Yes, Lord. Yes, I love you. Feed my sheep. Peter, do you love me? Yes, Lord, you know everything. You know I love you. Tend my sheep. And Jesus and Peter talked. Jesus told Peter of a time when he had become old and people would spread out his arms and take him to a place he did not want to go. And later, when Peter thought about this, he wondered if Jesus was preparing him for his own death in Rome when he was old. Jesus turned to Peter again. Follow me. And Jesus and Peter walked together. Peter looked back and saw another disciple, John, following them. What about him? He asked. Is he going to die like the rest of us? Jesus said, that is not for you to know. And Peter was quiet for a moment. And in that moment, Jesus went from their sight. I wonder, which is your favourite part of the story? I wonder, which bit is most important? I wonder where you are in this story, which part is about you? wonder if there's something we could leave out of the story but still have everything we need. You can take your time thinking about those. You can take your time wondering, because we never need to stop wondering.